Welcome back to Become a Calm Mama. I'm your host. I'm Darlene Childress, and I'm a life and parenting coach. And today I'm going to talk about this idea of your kids' happiness and whether or not it's your job to make your kids happy and how much responsibility you have for that. And I'm going to hopefully, through this episode, help you see that it's really not your job, and actually thinking that it's your job to make your kids happy may actually be creating some problems in your family and in your life that you might not like. So it's funny because I feel like it's a little bit confusing, motherhood. Motherhood is confusing, that's what I think, because there's so many different phases and stages of being a mom. And that's because your children start out extremely vulnerable, extremely needy, and they don't really have a lot of skills, right? Because they're babies. And then over the course of time, our role, our job as parents is to sort of back away, give them more responsibility, more freedom, let them grow, let them change, let them practice, let them make mistakes so that they build the resiliency that they need in order to launch into adulthood, right? But how do we go about that? Like, when do we shift gears? When do we sort of start to take off our foot off the gas and start to hand, the car over to the child, right? It's not always clear. So I'm hoping to maybe clear this up a little bit for you and talk that through. So, okay, when your baby comes, right, and they are crying because they have a wet diaper, they can't fall asleep, they have gas, they're uncomfortable, their body temperature's having trouble regulating, they have a lot of difficulty regulating their physical well-being and their emotional well-being. And so you as the parent are like shushing and soothing and swaddling and, moving them around, trying to get them to soothe, to calm, right? And it can kind of feel like your job is to make your kids happy, that your job is to make your child be able to feel happy so that they calm their body, right? I want to help you understand that soothing is not the same as making someone happy. So a circumstance happens, the baby is, having trouble, has gas. Let's just do that. Has a tummy ache or has a gas bubble. And you're over there doing all the things to try to deal with that. And you're getting them comfortable and soothing them so that they don't have gas, right? And then your mama mind, or your parenting mind will say, okay, I need to prevent that from happening. How can I do that? Should I burp them? Should I, are these pajamas too hot? Or, whatever. You start to problem solve in order to prevent that problem from happening, of course, right? Because we don't want our children to be uncomfortable. But then that can become a habit that we put in a lot of work to prevent discomfort for our children. And we can think of it like it's our responsibility to prevent problems for our kids. We are thinking, oh, my job is to make my kid happy, so I need to bulldoze or clear the way in order to make sure that they experience happiness as much as possible. And I love that. I mean, I do. I want your children to be happy. But really, I want for your kids, I want them to be able to move through any emotion. I want them to be able to be flexible and to have resilience in the face of hardship. When you are over there trying to prevent a lot of problems and trying to, pave the way and do everything you can so that your child is not uncomfortable, so your child is happy, what happens is that they may not be getting the opportunity to develop their emotional literacy. Their well-being is dependent on whether they can roll through any emotion. So we want them to know what they're feeling and how to talk about it and what to do with it. That's emotional literacy. When you are hyper parenting or hyper problem solving, you may be preventing your children from going through these experiences. Now, the other thing that is true is that you cannot prevent every problem. You literally can't. Even the most perfect parent, who doesn't exist, cannot prevent unhappy situations from happening. Your kid is going to have hard things happen. You cannot control the universe. You cannot control the weather. You cannot control, what time stores open and close. And you just can't control things. You're not God or the goddess or whatever, right? You're not an actual omnipotent being. So you don't know everything. A lot of times you're learning alongside with your kid, right? You've never had a kid in first grade. You've never had a kid in middle school. Like, you can't prevent every problem. And when you are trying to, or you think that it's your responsibility, then what happens when you don't, and like things happen that are hard for your child, you might start thinking negatively about yourself. You might start thinking, oh my God, I'm not a good mom. If I would only be better, then my kid wouldn't be unhappy. If I only would have thought about this situation better, or planned better, or organized better, or married the right person, or chosen the right school, or lived in the right neighborhood, or didn't work, or maybe I should work. Like, you might start spinning and thinking, I need to work harder. I need to be better. I need to do this better because my child is struggling and it's my fault. Well, that's a really hard place for you to be. That is guilt. That isn't yours. It is not your job to make sure your kid is happy. It is your job to help your children move through any emotion. And primarily, we have trouble moving through negative emotion, through hard things. To be honest, little kids have trouble moving through excitement too, right? And nervousness, like other feelings. It's not always just anger and sadness. All the feelings bring up stuff in our body. Feelings activate our nervous system, intense emotion. If we're thinking we've done something wrong and we should prevent it and it's our fault, then we're maybe not allowing our children to experience disappointment or hurt or anger because we don't want them to be uncomfortable. We're trying to rush them to become happy. Let me actually break this down with an example. I think it'll be helpful. So thinking about a birthday party, right? You've planned a birthday party, beautiful birthday party. It's, April, and all of a sudden it's a rainy day on your kid's birthday party and it's at the park. Okay. And it's like being postponed till next week or, whenever you have to do it. You're like, okay, honey, I've had to postpone your birthday party. They don't know what postpone means, by the way. So you say like, we're not having your birthday party today. We're going to have your birthday party next week. And your kid, in an ideal situation, your kid would feel sad. They would feel disappointed. They might cry. And ideally, you would allow for their feelings. You would trust that they will shift out of their negative emotion. That you're just in the big feeling cycle with them, letting them process that emotion and trusting that their brain and body is going to get to the other side of that emotion. Now, a little kid, it might take a little while, especially if they're so accustomed to you doing a lot of work to get them to calm down. They might be reliant on that. But when you're neutral or just in a compassionate space without trying to fix it, your child will move through their activated nervous system into a rest nervous system. They will get back to balance. If you force it, if you rush it, if you try to convince them that they should be happy by saying, oh, you know what, you don't need to be sad because we're going to do your birthday party tomorrow. Or you don't need to be sad, we're going to do it next week. Oh, you don't need to be sad because today we're going to get ice cream instead. Oh, you don't need to be sad because, if you have some anxiety around their negative emotion, you may be rushing the process. I want you to trust that your child is designed, their neurobiology is designed to get back to homeostasis, to balance, to calm. The brain, the child, they do need support. They need someone who's not like, cut it out, it's not that big of a deal, kid. We don't want to shut down the emotion. We don't want to try to rush the emotion. We don't want to shift the emotion too fast. We're like in an attuned dance, just sort of guiding your child through their feelings. But you, as the parent, have to be neutral and be compassionate, which means you're not judging yourself. You're not thinking, oh my God, I shouldn't have done that. This is my fault. If you are in your own head, you may most likely rush your child's process. You may rush their emotional regulation. You might try to bypass their nervous system or trick it to get to the other side. When you're not okay with your child's disappointment, when you're uncomfortable with your child's discomfort, it will be harder for you to allow your child to move through their big feelings. You may rush it, and because you want your kid to feel better so you can feel better. It's like you are soothing yourself through your child's regulation, and that's backwards. I want you to soothe yourself and then show up for your kid as that calm, neutral, compassionate witness, trusting that they will get to the other side. The body, like I said, it is supposed to be able to switch between an activated nervous system, the sympathetic nervous system, down back to the rested nervous system, the parasympathetic. We're supposed to be able to switch between. And when you're little, that takes a long time. Not a long time. It takes longer than when you're adult, because as an adult, you can get to perspective taking sometimes faster, not always. Gratitude is a great way to shift, creating a better case scenario. Like, oh, well, my birthday party got postponed for next week, but it's so cool because I kind of get to have two parties because we're going to celebrate today and we get to celebrate next week. That's perspective taking. And that's the beautiful thing that we can do with our brains, right? We can kind of manage our negative emotion through our thoughts. And through our body, we need to discharge, move through all that negative emotion, of course. And we also use our brains. And as an adult, you have easier access to those new thoughts. You know what the future is. You know how things aren't that big of a deal. You've been through hard things. You know you can overcome hard things. So you as an adult, your nervous system is more primed to move through back and forth. Although having little kids means that your nervous system is really activated, right? And it can be hard for you to get back to that parasympathetic. Notice that it could be your thoughts that might be prolonging that switch. So when you are thinking, it's my job to make my kids happy, it might be that when your child is unhappy, you are rushing through the emotional coaching process. So that's why one of the things I want you to take away from this podcast episode is that it is not your responsibility to make your children happy. It is your responsibility to guide them when they are unhappy, to be their compassionate witness, to be their emotional coach. And that is, it's a process for sure. It's a learning skill. It's not something that we know how to do naturally. I mean, we do, but you need help. Okay. You need tools. And that's what I teach in my programs and on this podcast, how to do it. But what I want you to understand is that just the thought, it's my job to make my children happy, will prevent you from, or possibly can prevent you from becoming the emotional coach you want, becoming the calm mama that you want to be. Because your thought, it's my job to make my kids happy, and when they are unhappy, it's my fault, is going to dysregulate you. You aren't going to be able to stay calm if you're thinking bad thoughts about yourself. That's just how it works. So that's one of the main reasons why I'd want you to move out of this. It's my job to make sure my kids can handle all their feelings. Right? That's such a better way to think about it. All right. So that's the first reason that I want you to realize that, it's thinking it's your job to make your kids happy. It might prevent you from being the emotional coach that you want to be. Okay. Now here's the kicker. Here's the second one. The other reason that I want you to stop thinking that it's your job to make your kid happy is this, and really, really listen to this part. When you're thinking that, and then your child isn't happy, and you hold yourself responsible, guess who else is holding you responsible? Your kid. Now, this is how blame comes up. It's almost subconscious. It's like your kid is like, oh, this sucks. It's my mom's fault. If my mom, you should have known better. You should have done it better. You should have told me. How come you didn't know? Like, if your child is blaming you, that might be because you are holding the responsibility for their happiness. And when you aren't happy, you're blaming yourself. And then your child is also going to blame you. So it's like this almost subconscious situation. Now, not only will they blame you when they're unhappy, but they also think you're supposed to fix the feeling. They're like, it's your fault I'm feeling this way because you said your job is to make me happy and here I am unhappy. So obviously you didn't do something right. And my unhappiness is also your problem. So it's your fault and your problem. So you better fix it. Okay, that sounds annoying, right? As like in a relationship, we don't want that. But also, what happens if I'm a little kid and I'm thinking that my parent has to fix my circumstance or fix it or give me a prize or give me a present or give me a sticker or do something to fix my problem, not my problem, but fix my unhappiness, then they don't believe that they have their power over themselves to fix their own unhappiness. When you fix your child's emotions and you bribe them or you promise them or you whatever, soothe them, like overly soothe them and stay stuck in their negative emotion because you're just like trying to, fix it. And they're like, it's not shifting. That's because it's not shifting because it's not from them. Their nervous system is like, no, not that. No. Yeah, say something else, mommy. No. Like, what I want you to understand is that your child needs to believe that they can handle their feelings, that they know how to feel unhappy and how to shift to a different emotion, that they know how to self-regulate. They have to believe that they have the power to do that. Even if they don't have the skill yet, they need to believe they're capable of it. When we are saying, it's my job to make you happy, and when you're unhappy, it's my job to fix it, these are subconscious thoughts. But when they are there, your child misses the opportunity to learn to manage their own feelings. And that's not what you want, right? Because you want them to grow up and be able to, take really good care of themselves. Now, what happens when you have grown up in this dynamic where you think, it's my mom's fault that I'm unhappy and it's my mom's job to fix my feelings. Okay. This could be super subconscious. But then when you grow up and you show up in your other relationships, it can show up like you're looking outside yourself for someone or something to make you happy. Because you don't really believe that you have the power to make yourself happy, that it's somebody else's job. You've outsourced your happiness to someone else. And that's not a great place to live as a grown-up. Maybe it's fine when you're 5, right? Of course. Or, even 15. But it does get stickier and more complicated as you get older because you look to others to make you happy, and then those people or those things, they don't. They can't always make you happy because life is full of hard stuff, right? And then if you're in that cycle, you blame others. You're like, I'm not happy because you didn't treat me this way. I'm not happy because you didn't do what I asked you to do. I'm not happy and you're outsourcing your happiness again to someone else. Instead of believing that you have the power within yourself to make yourself happy, even when shitty stuff happens. That's what I want for your kids. That's what I want for you, obviously. But I want your children to believe in themselves that they can handle disappointment, that they don't have to be happy all the time. That's a wonderful thing to feel joy and delight and peace and like deep contentment. I've been feeling that a little bit this summer, a little bit like in my belly, that contented feeling. And then I also like moved from my belly to my chest and I'm like, what is that? I'm like, I think that's happiness. Like I just kind of have been like feeling this little giddy, happy feeling. And I love that. Like that's amazing, right? And I also have moments, even though I experience this giddy, happy feeling, I also have moments that I'm not happy. I feel disappointed. I feel frustrated. I feel annoyed. I feel angry by a circumstance or a person's behavior. I feel scared. I have these other emotions and I'm like, okay, I know how to deal with those. I can, wait for them to pass. I can talk about them. I can move my body. I can distract myself. I have always so many options of how to regulate my emotions. My kids, they're young adults now. They're learning that too. Their job is, their happiness is their responsibility, not mine, not anybody else's. You're having a crappy summer? Go fix it. Shift your mindset. Take on some new feelings, some new actions. Chase a new feeling. See what happens. Of course, that's like the long-term goal for all of our kids. And one of the obstacles that comes up is when a mom or a dad, I guess, is thinking it's my job to make my child happy and I need to do everything to manipulate and manage all the situations and all the circumstances and all the things and all the bedtimes and all the schedules and all the snacks and all this stuff so that you're like, oh, okay, now they'll be happy. And then they're not. I'm not even talking about resentment yet. I'm just talking about the thought that you have that, oh man, I messed up somehow. Might make it so that you don't let your kids feel that unhappiness. Or they might blame you for their unhappiness, which blame is annoying, but also at the root of blame is I don't have power. I don't have power over myself or my circumstances. And that lack of agency, that disempowered place is very, very vulnerable. It triggers right back into fight, flight. If you've got a lot of blame going on, then you might want to take a look at whether you're thinking that it's your job to make your kids happy. And if you have a big feeling cycle that you're rushing and you're trying to at least and hurt, it's okay because, if you're trying to soothe, over soothe and not just be a witness of the feelings, but you're trying to solve the feelings, might also be because you are thinking it's my job to make my kids happy. And when they're not happy, I've done something wrong. So that's my message for you today. I hope that it was clear and that you kind of got the understanding. It's clear in my mind. I just know, I always hope that when you're listening, you're like, yeah, I got it. If for some reason it's not clear, you can send an email or response on Instagram or whatever, and just you can ask me questions. I'm happy to answer, or book a consult. We can talk about it and have a little conversation about this. Also, these are the kinds of things that we work on deeper and deeper in the group, in the Calm Mama Club and in my one-on-one programs. So those are always available to you as well. All right. This episode is coming out just as the summer is ending. You might be thinking, oh my God, my kids did not have a good summer. I didn't make them happy enough. I didn't do enough. They seem so grumpy. Yeah, check yourself. It's not your job to make your kids happy. It's your job to make sure your kids can handle any feeling. All right. I hope you have squeeze the last little bits of summer, slurp it up. I know some schools, crazy schools in Arizona, have already started. That's absurd to me. I know we're all kind of gearing up for back to school. So next week is an episode on gearing up for back to school, troubleshooting back to school stuff, and prepping and preparing. Not so that you can prevent unhappiness, but just so that your children are prepared for their emotions. That's it. Okay, mamas, I will talk to you next week. I hope you have a good one. Hey mama, if you enjoyed this podcast episode, I want to encourage you to do two things. The first is go to my website, calmmamacoaching.com, and get a copy of the Stop Yelling cheat sheet. You'll get a step-by-step breakdown of the most important tool I teach, which is the pause break. And you'll also get 40 ideas to reset your body and balance your nervous system so you don't have to yell at your kids. You can get a copy of that, again, at my website, calmmamacoaching.com/stop yelling. The other thing I'd love for you to do is go to Apple Podcasts and rate and review this podcast so that other moms can discover empowering and helpful, practical parenting strategies just like you did today. Thanks so much for listening to the podcast. It means a lot to be in your ear every week and to support you on your parenting journey.